Hello, Becky Duff here. Welcome back to my channel. I am here to do a reading update for what I have been reading in May. Today is May 19th, and so far I have completed 5 books. One I started at the end of April, and I am down here in my basement to talk to you while I work on The Greatest Bookstore in the World puzzle, which I got this last year and have been working on it for months now, so I really want to get it done. And I am excited to jump into this. I got my baby there, so you probably hear some baby talking in the background. And ignore the disaster that my basement is. But let's dive into the books. So the book I started, I think I talked about it in my April wrap-up, but the book I started in April that I finished in May was Faithless by Karin Slaughter. And this is number 5 in the Grant County series by Karin Slaughter. That is the only series of hers that I have read so far, is the Grant County ones. But I am excited to jump into more Karin Slaughter outside of the Grant County series. This one follows Sarah Linton, is the Grant County pediatrician and coroner, and her ex-husband slash maybe future husband is the chief of police, and his name is Jeffrey Tolliver. The victim was buried alive in the Georgia woods, then killed in a horrifying fashion. When Sarah and Jeffrey stumble upon the body, both become consumed with finding out who killed the pretty young woman. And for Sarah and Jeffrey, a harrowing journey begins, one that will test their own turbulent relationship and draw dozens of lies into the case. So this was good. It's Karin Slaughter. I don't know if you've read Karin Slaughter before. She's very graphic in her details of like people being killed and stuff like that, and it's very disturbing and talking about like brain matter and stuff, and I'm just like, whoa. But as graphic as she is that way, I really enjoy her writing and the story and the journey of her works. So I'm excited, like I said, to jump into something outside of the Grant County series, but I have like 2 left in this one or something, so we'll see. But I have 1 book of hers that is not part of the Grant County series, Pretty Girls, so I can at least jump into that one. That book is like this huge big thick paperback book that we got at a thrift store in BC. My mom paid for it. It was 50 cents. That was the first Karin Slaughter. Was that the first one I bought? I don't know, but I've only read the Grant County ones. Let's see what we're doing with this puzzle. My baby is not letting me do much in the way of anything besides sitting and breastfeeding, but he's not really happy with breastfeeding either, so I don't know what to do. I've been doing puzzles on my phone. It's way easier, but I've been wanting to do this in person for so long. I listened to Beach Read by Emily Henry, and that was my first ever Emily Henry, and I heard a lot of mixed reviews for Beach Read. The first person I heard talk about it, I believe, was Gabby from Gabby Reads, and she was reading it. I think that's the book she was reading with like her mom and her sister, and so her description of it and her feelings on the book didn't really make me want to pick it up at all. It didn't sound very good, but then other people talk about how much they loved it. So I think I really enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it because of Gabby's review, which didn't make me want to pick it up, and then other people's reviews did, because it wasn't what Gabby was expecting, I think. Like, it's kind of pitched as this romance book, but then there's a lot of like hard stuff in it, like when you hear about the 2 main characters' families and stuff like that, and it's not just light fluffy romance. So I had good expectations going into it that helped me enjoy the story for what it was. There's like this piece of the puzzle that's clearly should go right here, but it doesn't. Why don't you fit there? Emily Henry just came out with a new book this year too, called Book Lovers, so I really want to get my hands on that one as well, because I have some books that I've been reading that are like book themed, I guess, like libraries, bookshops, things like that, so I can add it to my collection. And knowing that I already like Emily Henry's one book, I can't say she's like a favorite author or anything, but I enjoyed Beach Read. So Beach Read is this story about 2 writers that went to college together, actually. The girl writes romance, and the guy writes like literary, like dark literary fiction, and very like disturbing dark tones and stuff in his stories. And the book that he wants to work on for that summer is actually a cult book about this cult, and people were killed in it, or committed suicide or something Anyways, and then she writes like contemporary, fun, fluffy fiction or romance books because her mom was diagnosed with cancer when she was a teenager. The main character, why can't I think of her name, was a teenager and her mom was diagnosed with cancer. And so she got into reading romance books because she found one like in the waiting room while she was waiting for her mom to do chemo or something. Just to pass the time, she's like, I'll just read this book. And she thought like that she'd just be sitting there reading like the same page over and over again, or it'd take her like an hour to read like 2 pages kind of thing because like her mind just wasn't in it. But then she got sucked up into the story and just fell in love with the genre and everything, and finding some happiness in the midst of like this really terrible situation in her life. And she wanted to give that to other people. And I really loved that aspect of the book because she talks about like how much romance books meant to her and why she writes romance. So there was like a lot of passion behind her reasoning for the books that she chose to write. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought it made it really authentic and real. And I think some people can see some romance as just like fluffy stuff that doesn't really like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but people don't take it as seriously as other genres maybe. But I liked that it showed this different perspective on it, and how even if you're writing books that are like fluffy and not like these like deep, hard, heavy subjects or anything, or trying to teach somebody something necessarily, it still has value. It's still valid, and it's still, they can still be great books and just a fun time. Right? So I really liked that. I don't read a ton of romance. I'm getting into it a little bit more. Like, I never thought it wasn't a valid genre or anything like that. But I know that it can kind of be put down a little bit more in the larger reading community. So this book, I listened to it as an audiobook and I really enjoyed it. So like I kind of want to buy Book Lovers, but kind of also just want to wait to listen to it on audio. And I haven't read any of her other stuff, but I might listen to those on audio. I don't know. I'll see where I'm at. I got it for free from my library as an audiobook, and I have like no money at all. Don't worry about that when I go on my book shopping. I have some money set aside for that. But budget wise, like we don't have a ton of money to just be buying a bunch of stuff when we can get it for free from places like the library. So definitely check out your local library. It's awesome. This book actually made me laugh out loud between the banter of the two characters, and that's why I loved it. I gave it a 5-star. I don't normally rate things unless it's like an obvious 5-star. And I thought the characters were well fleshed out. I thought their motives for writing what they wrote were really fleshed out. Did I even finish telling you the premise of this book? So she writes romance. He writes these like dark, heavy literary fictions. He's got a beach house, and she ends up with this beach house for the summer. And they're kind of rivals. They went to school together. She always felt really criticized by him. They had like a class together, and he would like criticize her work. And he was always like, oh, you always just write happy endings and everything's happy all the time, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not how life is, right? And he's writing more like this is how life is. And he's writing from life experiences like that cult. They never really got along very well, and she always just felt criticized by him and was like, why would I want to hang out with this guy? He's mean to me kind of thing. So they both end up in this tiny little town in beach houses beside each other, and he's in a bit of a rut and she's in a rut, and she doesn't want to write because I'm not going to give away spoilers in these wrap-ups, of course, but she just got news, like this really shocking news, and she's trying to process it, and she feels like she's lost all hope in what that romance genre gave her, this hope in life, and why she would write happy endings all the time. And she felt like, you know what? Like, that guy was right. Happy endings are not a real thing. This doesn't happen in real life. And she's just, like, bitter and angry about it. So she's having a hard time, and she's really stuck on writing this book. And she has, like, 3 books out already. And her agent, she's signed up for, like, 2 more books. Or she's got 2 books and signed up for 2 more, whatever it is. But she has to have a book in by, like, September. So she's like, I'm going to go to this beach house for the summer and write this book. And she's just sitting there like staring at blank pages for days and days, right? And then she gets talking to her neighbor, her old rival from college, and he's also kind of struggling a little bit. She's like, oh, you think it's so easy to write romance and this fluff and happy endings and stuff like that, why don't you write it? And he's kind of like, well, why don't you write my kind of story kind of thing? So they decide that they're like, okay, whoever can publish the story, you write a romance, I'll write this literary fiction, and whoever publishes first and gets like a book deal out of it, the other person's gonna promote them like all the time. So they shake on it, they make this deal, they're gonna write the other person's book, basically. Like, it's gonna be their book, and it's gonna have their name on it and stuff like that. Like, they're not writing for the other person. It's not like a ghostwriter situation or anything like that. But they shake on it, they're gonna write these books. And then they have banter, and there's like their kitchen windows. What are you playing, Rylan?
Luigi's Mansion.
Their kitchen windows like face each other, or like her dining window and his living room or whatever, they face each other, so they'll be writing. And instead of like texting each other, he'll write like on a piece of paper and like hold it up with like a little note, and then she'll write down and like hold up a little note. And I just love that banter. And so like I said, so there was parts that made me literally laugh out loud. So I really enjoyed that. And I am excited to check out more Emily Henry in the future. It's hard to talk and not be distracted by the puzzle. Excuse me? You're interrupting. Anybody else have trouble getting the puzzle box to sit up where you can see like the photo that you're working on? I've had this book on my TBR for a long time. The Mitch Albom, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Say hi to everybody. So The 5 People You Meet in Heaven is about this guy. He's like 80 years old who works on this pier that has like a carnival setting, but there's an accident with one of the like roller coasters, and the cart goes to fall, and there's this little girl standing underneath of it, and she's gonna get crushed. And he sees this, and he, like I said, he's like 80 years old, and he's got like a bad knee and stuff from being in the war, and he just gets like this burst of energy and strength to run and like protect her and cover her body with his. And he dies in the accident, and he goes to heaven. And this is about the 5 people you meet in heaven. It's supposed to be teaching you like how your life matters kind of thing, kind of like the Midnight Library by Matt Haig talks about. There's all these things she could have done, and she was feeling really depressed, and it's like all the what ifs, and she got to live out those lives and see like if she followed this path in her life where that would have led, kind of thing. This book is kind of like that, where you meet these 5 people because he felt like his life just had no meaning at all. Him and his wife were unable to have children. He's got nothing to pass on. He never got out of the house. He just felt like he never accomplished or did anything in his life. So this book is supposed to be like the 5 people that have impacted your life, whether you directly knew them or not. Like one person he meets is from a couple decades before he was born, kind of thing. But because of her life, this carnival on this pier was built and stuff, and then that's where he got his job, and that's where, you know, like when he's 80, this accident happens. And so like her life obviously had an impact on his, kind of thing. It's supposed to just be about like how your life does make a difference, bless you, and it does impact other people. And no matter how mundane or small your life may seem, like there's a purpose behind it, even if we don't understand it. So I thought there was gonna be like way more. I thought I was gonna be like highlighting the crap out of this book, because I thought it would have like so many quotable things in it, and not really. I did a lot more in the Midnight Library. I did highlight a couple things. Oh, bookmark. That's why I'm always losing my bookmarks, because I throw them in my books when I'm done and then I forget about them. And then I don't do a ton of rereading, so then I never see them again. I just highlighted the end of it, but I'll read the whole sentence. 2 sentences. People think of heaven as a paradise garden, a place where they can float on clouds and laze in rivers and mountains. But scenery without solace is meaningless. That's like as profound as this book gets, it feels like. It, like, the overall message is good in the sense, like I said, that your life does matter, no matter how small or mundane it feels. Your life still impacts those around you. So, like, the overall message, but, like, the personal individual messages in it didn't feel all that profound. And there's actually a book that comes out after this that deals with the little girl that he protects in the beginning of this book. Yeah, like, I was just expecting more out of it, so it was underwhelming and a bit, I guess it was more of a disappointment. It wasn't a bad book, but it was disappointing. So, but I read it really fast, so that's awesome. It was good. Like I said, I'm kind of feeling a little bit slumpy right now, so it was nice to be able to finish this in the, like, day that it took me to read it. And then for Bible study, I read The Case for Easter by Lee, how do you say his last name? Strobel. This was short too, and I read it like in a day. Atheist turned Christian, Lee Strobel was the award-winning legal editor of the Chicago Tribune and is the best-selling author of The Case for Christ, The Case for Faith, For a Creator, and The Case for Grace. With a journalism degree from the University of Missouri and a Master of Studies in Law degree from Yale, Lee has won 4 gold medallions for publishing excellence and co-authored the Christian Book of the Year. He serves as professor of Christian thought at the Houston Baptist University. Lee. Visit Lee's website at leestrobel.com. You don't really need an explanation for this. It's the case for Easter. It's 3 chapters, and it's the case that Jesus died on the cross. He talks about like the swoon theory and stuff like that. Like maybe Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. Maybe he survived all that he went through. And then it talks about the empty tomb. And then the 3rd chapter is about the resurrected Jesus. Because like, okay, Jesus died and then the body goes missing. That's not really anything to base an entire religion off of, right? So there has to be the death, there has to be the empty tomb, and there has to be the resurrection. So he talks about that. And what I really like about that book and what Lee Strobel does is he was an atheist and he was a journalist and his wife became a Christian, and he's like, this is nonsense. This is crazy. She's drank the Kool-Aid. She's gone. I need to investigate this and win her back, basically. And so he went on this journey. And he became a Christian in the 80s, so this was a while ago, but before Google and internet searches and stuff like that, he went to these people's houses. He found other people of faith that have scientific backgrounds and stuff. Like, he talked to a doctor about, like, okay, did Jesus die on the cross? Like, where's the proof that Jesus died? It's not just your everyday layman Christian being like, yeah, of course I believe that Jesus died on the cross. This is like a medical doctor who has like medical scientific proof. I really like that investigative side of it, and I've read other books like it. Like, there's one, Cold Case Christianity, and it's from a cop who does cold case investigations, murder investigations, and he was like, you know what, you take a case from like 40 years ago that was never saved, and with the new technologies, the new like DNA and stuff like that, you can reopen these cases and maybe even prosecute people, or at least find answers for what happened for the family that was left grieving and was never given any kind of closure. So for whatever reason, he went on this journey and decided that he was going to investigate faith and Jesus' death and resurrection and stuff the same way he would cold case files. I don't remember who wrote it. It's called Cold Case Christianity, but I'll put a picture over here. Oh, the baby just drooled all over me. Gross. Really, baby. Say hi. Say I'm Julie. No. I really enjoy that kind of look at things, because a lot of people think that when you become a Christian or you follow a faith, because I follow somebody who is a Muslim, I'll post her information as well. I follow somebody who's a Muslim, and they talk about, like, it's really frustrating when people think that you just check your brain at the door to go into where you would go to worship for us, a church. It's really frustrating because people think like just because you believe in God means that you're stupid and you don't understand evolution or whatever. You don't understand science. And that's not true. There are people out there, that are completely ignorant on science and evolution and stuff, and they think of like young earth creationism and stuff, and I go back and forth on whether the earth is like billions of years old or millions of years or tens of thousands of years. For me, like, that doesn't matter. I believe that God did it, and that's what matters. Evolution is a little different because there's some theological stuff. I won't talk about that here. If you want to hear about that or talk to me about it or whatever, we can have that conversation. Like, to me, it doesn't matter if the world is 10,000 years old or 10 million years old or 10 billion years old. It's God that started it. God set the whole thing in motion, and we are here because of God. It's direct hand in creation. But I like these books, like The Case for Easter and stuff, where they are using science and facts and things that we use in our life to determine other things that people don't question the way they do with faith. There is an element of faith where at the end of the day, you look at all the facts and you have to decide, do I believe this or not? There is a part that comes of like the blind faith idea, but it's not completely blind. You're not just saying, I just believe in this because I don't understand evolution or whatever, right? Like, we have minds. We are thinking people. And there are people out there who believe in evolution and believe in God as the creator and believe in Jesus and stuff. There are people of all walks of faith. That's not true. But there are people out there with all different kinds of backgrounds and knowledge and everything that believe in Jesus. And you don't have to just check your brain at the door. So I like books like The Case for Christ and The Case for Easter. If you don't want to read it, I suggest watching the movie. It's really good. And if you do want to read, like, The Case for Christ is probably a lot bigger. But if you want to read, like, this is really short. It's like less than 100 pages. And I mean, there's a lot of writing on each page, but the book is small too. It's not just thin, it's a small, like, there's my hand. That's how big it is. and I have like average sized women sized hands. But I would definitely suggest, if you're seeking and you're questioning things and you want to know more, to dive into books like the Case for Christianity and things like Cold Case Christianity and stuff. I think they give a really good case for it, but good evidence and stuff that is like scientifically based and historically based and stuff like that, and things that historians would use in other areas of history to determine facts of historical figures. There you go, that's my preaching for the day. And the last book I finished was The Breadwinner. I don't remember what the author is, but again, I'll put a picture here. I read that as an ebook on my phone. I ended up reading that because I joined this app called Beanstalk that our library is promoting right now, and you log your books, and one of the challenge things was like, take a book out on Hoopla, and then I accidentally clicked it saying I did it, and I didn't do it. I couldn't unclick it, so I was like, now I have to do it. So I looked at what I had on Hoopla as ebooks, and The Breadwinner, again, was a book I read, and it took over 2 days, but it took me less than a day to fully read it. And it's middle grade, takes place in Afghanistan, and it takes place in the 90s, 2002 maybe, like early 2000s. This girl, she is 11, she's living with her dad, her mom, her older sister, younger sister, and baby brother, and they are all living in like a one-room house and fleeing from like bombings and stuff like that. The Taliban has taken over. None of the women can leave the house without a male escort, and they must wear the full burqa. And her dad lost his leg, and she goes with him to the market every day to sell things, because she is young enough to get away with not wearing the full burqa. She's only 11 and is not a woman quite yet. And her dad gets arrested because they were an educated family. The mom and dad were both like teachers, professors, university educated, and believed in education for their daughters and stuff. But with the Taliban and everything, they had to be kicked out of the schools. All the female schools were shut down and everything like that. And so her father gets taken because he went to England for his degree, and so they found out and they came and were like, you're a traitor to the country, and took him to jail. And the girl, Parvana, I'm not sure, they decide to make her look like a boy. They cut her hair and stuff and give her they had an older brother originally that passed away stepping on a landmine, and they give her his clothes, get her to like go out and make money and stuff like that, and then she can also act as an escort if her mom needs to go out, or her sister, or whatever. There were some parts of the book that were kind of difficult to read. There's a scene where these guys are taken from the prison into like a coliseum, and they're going to be punished for theft by the cutting off of hands. And it's kind of descriptive, because throughout this book, it's really short, like I said, and it's middle grade. And I was like, oh, I could get my daughter to read this, because, you know, some days it's just a chore to get them to go to school. And I want to be like, look how privileged you are that you can go to school and not worry about like being persecuted or being bombed or like having it shut down just because women aren't allowed to be educated. And then I was reading this part of the book and being like, I don't know if I want my 10-year-old daughter to be reading this. Like, it's kind of graphic. And then I was thinking about it, like, that's my choice to decide if she is mature enough to read that, of course. But I was like, the people in these books are that age and they're living through this. They're not just reading descriptions of someone's hand being cut off. They're watching it. They're seeing this. They're living through this war-torn country and everything, and it's devastating. The only thing I don't know that I have to look up is if the author, I feel like she's like some white American lady who's just writing about this stuff, but I think like she has a passion for bringing awareness about the war and stuff like that to people. And this book was from like 2002. Things have changed in the last 20 years, obviously, with the war and everything, but like those stories still happen. It might be historical fiction now, but these stories were still happening and stuff. And I'm not sure what year it takes place in. I think it's in the 90s anyways. Yeah, I'd have to do more research in the author and like what her authority is to speak of these situations. But the book was really good, and I heard about it through, I want to say Ashley from Bookish Realm is where I heard about it. But anyways, baby's getting cranky. Child is getting cranky at Luigi's Mansion. We're all hungry. Anyways, that's what I've been reading so far, and I will update later when I've read more. So I'm here for the rest of my May wrap-up. It is June 3rd today. I can't even believe that we're already in June. Anyways, I got these new shirts a couple days ago. This is from Emily Cromwell Designs again. So many books and not enough time. I got this one and another shirt, so I just wanted to show off my new bookish merch. And we're going to talk about some books. I'm trying to learn how to do these wrap-ups a little bit more concisely. Just tell you what the book's about, what I thought about it, the end. So the last book I talked about, I believe, was The Breadwinner. And then I read... So the next book that I listened to was The Maid. I've been hearing good things about it. At first, I was not interested in it at all. I don't know exactly what it was that made me pick it up, but I'm glad I picked it up. As I said, I listened to it as an audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. They say that the main character, her name is Molly, is probably autistic. It's never explicitly said that she has autism, but the whole story takes place from her point of view. Just the way that she's talking and stuff like that, like, you can tell that she's not neuronormative. Something like that. I don't know the proper words for it, but she's very much like, what's the word I'm thinking of? She's very precise with her language, very literal with her language. She's 25 years old and she was living with her grandmother, and her grandmother taught her things like this is a saying, or pay attention to the way people smile at you and things like that. And she was starting to learn a little bit about like facial expressions and stuff like that, but she had a really hard time fully grasping the nuances of what people are saying just based off of tone and language used and their facial expressions, right? Baby appearance. But she was slowly learning those things, and you can hear her like
4 months old.
Yeah. And she doesn't like when people are not direct and just say what they mean. So I actually really liked her perspective, and some things were funny. It wasn't as laugh out loud as Beach Read was, but I did find some of it funny, and it was like I was laughing with her because she talks about like sometimes she doesn't fully understand, bye Rylan, if somebody is laughing with her or laughing at her. And I never felt like I was laughing at her. The story was not written that way at all. You're never laughing at her. The mystery was good. So Molly is a maid at a prestigious hotel, and she is cleaning the suite for this couple that stays there quite often. And so she knows them really well, and they always talk about, like, at the hotel, you want to bring the rooms back to a state of perfection. And she's very literal. She takes her job very seriously, and she loves her job. So there's this one couple that she's pretty much always the maid for. She goes to their hotel suite earlier in the day to clean it, but the husband like leaves, he's upset, whatever, and then she's talking to the wife, and the wife is, well, she's not talking to the wife went into the bathroom, and she's not in a good mood. She's in the bathroom, and the maid, Molly, is like, I will come back later to get your room back to a state of perfection. And then she shows up later to finish doing her job and discovers the husband dead in his bed. That's the mystery. Who did it? So of course she is under suspicion of it, and the cops are looking mostly at Molly for this death. Anyways, there's a few mysteries, a few twists and turns and reveals in the story, and I thought it was really well done, and I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely pick up something else by this author, Nina something, I can't remember. I wrote down the names of the books. I didn't write down the author's names, but I'll have a picture of the book. Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and I can't speak to the representation of Molly being autistic or whatever. I don't have experience with that, but I would definitely look at like Own Voices reviewers and stuff for that. But I thought it was well done, and I really enjoyed it, and there was a few little reveals that I thought were really good. It took me by surprise. I also read a book. I don't have it with me because I bought it as a birthday gift for my friend, and then I decided I was going to read it and then like highlight and take little notes and stuff so that as she read the book, she would get like my thoughts and opinions on it. But that was called Mom Truths, and they came out with another book this year called Mom Confessions, and Mom Truths has, I'll show a picture of it, but it's got like the wine cup with the Barbie doll upside down in it, and then Mom Confessions has a coffee cup. That one was really good. It's a nonfiction, and it's these two women. They are on like Instagram and YouTube and stuff now. They're Canadian from Toronto, so I thought that was really cool. Between them, they have 7 children. One has 4, one has 3, and they just talk about what it's like to be a mom. And this one's truths, so I'd be interested to hear what Confessions is. But just the truths of being a mom and the hard stuff and the not so fun stuff sometimes. And I thought it was really good. It was honest. I agreed with a lot of what they said. I thought it was like funny but heartfelt too. And then the last book I read in May for the buzzword, which was directions. So the direction was up in this one. Are my eyes up here? And I think I will do a dedicated review for this one eventually when I get to it. But I read this one for like not as obvious in this nice black shirt, but I heard about this one and I was like, I need to get my hands on this. The main character is Greer, and she is 15 in this book, and she is like at least an H cup. And I appreciated this because so many people, like, I'm getting so many ads on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and stuff for bras for large women, and it doesn't go past like a triple D cup. Now, if you're a triple D cup, you're probably fairly large and have a lot of the same problems, but not, because you're like kind of like normal large, I guess. I don't know. So you probably have an easier time buying clothes. I'm so tired of getting these ads that don't go up above a triple D because I am like an L cup. Like a 38L. So like, unless you go from A to Z in your cup sizes, please stop advertising to me. Thank you. So I appreciated that she was like an H cup because I was there not that long ago. Getting pregnant and having babies definitely changes your size, at least like temporarily while you're breastfeeding. I appreciated that she was like on the larger size, even at the age of 15, because triple D at like 15 is pretty large. But at the beginning of this book, her mom is like relocation specialist. So people who are moving into the town go to her and she tells them all the things like the best schools, the best place to get a haircut, the best place to go shopping for this stuff, and you know, whatever, like the best gym memberships. And so she brings her daughter Greer along with her because there is going to be a teenager at this meeting, and it's a boy, of course. So we follow Greer and this story for a few months, and she wants to join the volleyball team at her school, but she has a hard time because of not being able to find a proper supporting bra and just like having her breasts like fling around and stuff like that. And how can you play volleyball when you're so concentrated on if you like your shirt riding up and things like that. And then also liking a boy, that she is nervous that he is going to she's not nervous that he's going to be focused on her breasts like in a sexual way. She's actually nervous that they're going to like horrify him and he's going to go running in the opposite direction because they're just so large. How can they be attractive? And like I said, I'll get more into like my thoughts and feelings on this in an own dedicated review. But I thought this was really good. I thought it was good representation. I was not an athletic person or anything like that. Like, she never really has been, but wants to be in this. And I actually did play volleyball for a little bit in grade 7, which was elementary school for me. I really liked this. And I have a feeling I'm going to be passing this on to my oldest daughter in a few years. I don't want to deal with it. I want to ignore it. I want to pretend it's not there. But yeah, my oldest daughter takes after me quite a bit. So I definitely would recommend this if this was an experience you had in high school, if you are in high school and are experiencing this, or you have a teenager in your life that is like this, especially if they want to play sports. I would definitely recommend this one for sure. So that is my May wrap up. I DNF'd a lot of books this month. I'm not going to talk about any of those, but I did DNF a lot of books this month, but just trying to concentrate on what I am enjoying. Thank you for watching. Let me know what the best book you read this month was. I really liked this one, Beach Read, and The Maid. I was going to say The Nanny. The Maid. Yeah, let me know what your best book was this month, and I'll see you next time. Bye!